In today's episode, we're going to talk about the sub rule and how influential it could be in our teams for 2023 AFL Supercoach. Enjoy. Joe, the sub rule, it sucks. It makes things really, really tough. But, some teams actually quite like it. Add some versatility to the sides and give some guys some tactics that they normally wouldn't have.
That's true. Big J, I also am not a big fan of the sub rule. I'm on Jared Wheatley's side here with this. Just add an extra person on the bench. Why are we having them on the back bench to tactically activate them at any point in time? There was always a rule, a contentious rule, and we all know that the AFL's biggest enemy is itself, always meddling with the rules and changing it. Just leave football as it is. Stop trying to overcomplicate things. It's so annoying. And for those of us who play Supercoach, it's doubly annoying because now you can't just... I think the guns and rookies approach is just about dead with this rule.
Yeah, it really feels that way. I mean, the changes really in the tactics with the draftings kind of left that a little bit as well. So guns and rookies, teams not picking as many kids, they're picking, more mature age players, that kind of thing, less development players. But yeah, definitely just kind of the fact that, hey, at any time your player could be subbed out makes all these guys who are speculative picks on our field, just not worthwhile anymore.
100%. It's all about selecting people now. It's so important to select players who are really entrenched in the best 22, someone that you can't imagine the side willingly subbing out or leaving them out of your main lineup. And it just means that all of these unproven, untried rookies were joining their teams for the first time playing at senior level. Their security, especially in terms of playing out the whole game, scoring well, and making us money, more importantly in Supercoach, it just makes it so hard because if they're subbed out prematurely and then because they're not having a great game, they're not able to salvage that situation in the latter stages of the game to try and boost that scoring up. They're stuck now with a really poor score when they're subbed off, and that just kills their 3-round average, as well as just increasing their break-evens and really stalling their price generation. It sucks so much. I think we're going to see a lot of mid-price madness now as a result. People that are experienced, who have played a lot, and are more likely to start games as opposed to be used as a sub.
Yeah, and it's not even just rookies as well. There's some really good tactics coming in that we saw a little bit last year that we'll talk about, where just different positions on field, maybe they need fresh legs, that kind of thing. Do you want to kind of go over first what was the sub rule for last year and then the changes to it for this year?
Yeah. So the sub rule, as it once was for the last 2 years, the medical sub rule was as it was meant to be used as a medical substitute because it was specifically at a time where there was increasing awareness for players' health and safety when it comes to concussions. And so the AFL, in its immeasurable, deep wisdom, decided we're going to have a substitute rule specifically just to prioritize the health and safety of our players. And so the rule as the medical substitute was that each team had in the hour before the game to select a medical substitute from the list of the emergency players that they had provided to the AFL beforehand. And so what would happen is these players could only be activated by the club medical team if they were, in their honest opinion, right? And it's all about the honest opinion that this player was at an injury risk and would not be able to play for the next 12 days. Now, obviously, it's all about opinion, and I don't know how many times we've seen that these players were playing again less than 12 days later, BJ.
Yeah, definitely. They had a lot of suspected hamstrings from some teams that were just like, yep, back to training on Monday. Oh, he's okay. He just his leg was sore. I think there are a couple of like arm injuries and ankles and things like that as well. So this year they've kind of scrapped that, but just, purely because a lot of teams are exploiting it anyway, really. They've scrapped that idea. They've come in and said, yep, at any time, the tactical sub can come in. You guys just take a player off the field, and then you can bring your extra player on. So that's really opened a lot, as we said at the start, some tactics, things like that for swapping out players. But also in Supercoach, it really sucks because if our player who was playing gets subbed out, we get no score for the rest of the game.
Yeah, and if they're on the field, guess what? You're fielding a really crappy score, and it just goes to show how important it is that you're able, especially early on now, keeping track of how players are doing in the preseason, looking at their history, looking to see whether or not this player is really entrenching themselves in the core group, someone that isn't going to be subbed out. And that just means that the team that you're fielding compared to someone else who's fielding a lot more rookies that might get subbed out, well, you don't have that 20 on the field anymore. You're fielding minimum of 60s or 70s compared to someone who's fielding a rookie who's clearly needing a lot of development, clearly not ready for the level, and they're simply just getting some runs on the board to get them used to the game. So having a good awareness of how things are progressing now and watching these videos and obviously the other channels as well who are talking about the preseason, it's really important that you're on top of that. You don't want to be on the receiving end of a 6, for example, from one quarter. Oh, Riley Collier-Dawkins, he's having an absolute stinker of a game in the first quarter. Oh, wait, he's been subbed out. He's injured. Yes, of course, that explains it all. No worries. Thank you, Richmond. You're going to see that though a lot more often now without the BS of, oh, he's injured. They don't need that excuse anymore.
Yeah, you don't want to be the guy that ends up getting a player subbed out and then you guy on the bench who is an emergency gets subbed in, because then you get 2 crappy scores, 2 crappy lots of cash generation as well for a few weeks there. Would really, really stink being that situation.
Oh, I didn't even realize. Oh, that is so correct. Imagine you had a crap player on the field get subbed out. Oh, that's 2 players. Oh my God, that is devastating. That is devastating. That is so true. Yeah. Oh my God, this sub rule actually is worse than I thought. Oh my God.
So we've talked a bit about rookies getting subbed out. Is there any other situations where a player might get subbed out? So can you give us some other examples?
Yeah, like for example, if things aren't going well, the game is slowly slipping away from you, things aren't working in your favor, they're moving the ball a lot faster than your team is, for example, and you want to inject some speed into the game. You want to match it. You don't want them to keep taking advantage of the space that you're creating by playing too tall. You might sub out a key defender, for example, or a ruckman, or you might sub out someone who is just unable to keep up with the pace of the game, and you might put in a really dashing halfback to break some lines, get that ball moving, receive a handball out of a stoppage, and just go. I think we're going to see that a lot. I think it will be very unlikely, if ever, that we're going to see a key position player be the sub. That just simply won't be the case. It just doesn't. They don't have the flexibility that is probably required. Or you never know. It could very well be matchup dependent. Like if you know, for example, that this team is highly contested, for example, and likes to control the air with a kick mark style, like we saw in the past with like the Eagles, for example. But there's inclement weather. That might not work. The Eagles might have a substitute in place in case that happens to make the adjustment. Because at the end of the day, with a lot of sports, the team that makes the final adjustment is the one that tends to win, because they're the ones that are countering what the opposition is doing. So it's good. You will see a lot of tactical plays in terms of as well when that sub gets activated. The earlier on they activate it, then it just gives more time for the opposition to react. Having a player get activated on in the last quarter, good luck getting a big score from that player if they're only playing 1 quarter. Like it's just absolutely going to kill the cash gen.
Yeah, I can imagine a couple of like high quality premium midfielders might get subbed as well. So guys that maybe got a bit of a tag or some attention during the game and their team's currently winning by a lot, they give them a rest for next week. Guys like Zorko and a few others who have had really bad injuries in the past. Brisbane's winning. We don't really need you to play the last quarter. Let the kid play, and his score kind of gets stuck. Same with those young key forwards as well, giving them half a game instead of trying to make them play a full game against the top defenders there. Just before we head off, so have you seen any trends really coming in at the moment, just kind of people combating the potential sub rule? We've spoken about maybe some more mature age players getting chosen.
Yeah, a lot of mid prices, I think, more than ever are being selected. And the term mid pricer, there's a lot of confusion as to what people are classifying as a mid pricer or as a rookie price player. But you'll find that there's a lot of players who it's not their first season. People that have had multiple preseasons and are more likely to have the body to withstand, I suppose, the games and to have them run out games better. So you're seeing a lot of the Yo types, the Bows, Hopper, Sheed. You're seeing a lot of, and even in the forward line, I think people aren't fielding any rookies whatsoever in the forward line either. It's all probably a lot of people's F6 might be the McLean, So I think you're going to have this year more than ever, especially for those that are serious about this game and want to do as well as possible. They're going to try their best to minimize the number of rookies that they have on field. They might only have, for example, probably like Ashcroft and Phillips maybe might be their two cheapest players, especially Phillips might be the cheapest player that people field. And I know that's sort of what I'm aiming to do as well. I'm trying my best to stay away from any of these speculative young rookies that just simply could get subbed out or used as a sub. It's dangerous.
Yeah, definitely. Or they might end up picking guys like Baker on the bench just because they're, mid-20s who their bodies can handle a full game. You're not going to really get stuck with a Ward or a Shell who, maybe gets a 23rd quarter in and then the coach says, hey, get rid of you. So see what happens. But, yeah, definitely there for me.
Like you were lucky last year. If this rule was around last year, like Ward would have been subbed out so early on. But you can totally see that there's going to be a lot of it's not exploitation anymore, but a lot of sub activation. I think, especially in the rebuilding teams like the Hawthorn Football Club, who have just so many young pieces right now. I have no doubt that Sam Mitchell will do absolutely everything he can to give all of them as much game time as possible to really fast track their development. So picking Hawthorn rookies to me is really nerve-wracking. I only have one, and that's probably all I'm going to have, I think.
Yeah, it could be pretty sketch.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that's us for today. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Like, share, and subscribe, and tell your friends about what we're up to. If you haven't seen our Supercoach group video, we'll link that down in the description as well, giving away lots of different prizes for just playing, but also the highest rank and the highest scorer during the week. Any final words, Joe?
Yeah, that jersey is going to be mine. So I don't know how serious we are to advertise that for everybody else. It's just pretty mean, I think, at this point. Like, hey, Joe's about to win a jersey. But if you think you can beat me, please, guys, come and join the group. We're looking forward to having you.
Yeah, remember he was top 200 last year, so watch out, guys. Serious threat there.
Awesome. All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching. See you in the next one.
Catch you guys. Bye.